Good morning. Today is Saturday, April 13th. Nope, April 14th, 2018. My name is Kim Matina. I am a Google certified trainer and a top contributor in the Google for Education Help Forum. And today I wanted to give you a quick show about Google Sheets because I think some people are a little intimidated by Google Sheets, and I just want you to feel a little bit more comfortable using Google Sheets. So I'm going to show you how I use Google Sheets and Google Forms to collect data for my students in my class for my SGO, which is Student Growth Objective. So in New Jersey, we have teachers have to do an SGO to show progress on how students are making out during the school year toward a specific goal. And you have to track progress for a certain amount of time or for the school year. So what I do is I have the students fill out a form, and I gain or I collect information from them about my subject area, which is computer science. So they fill out a form actually rating themselves on their knowledge of computer science, or it could be, G Suite, it could be anything maybe about a book, whatever your goal is for your students. And you you collect all that data. It all goes into a spreadsheet. And then once it's in the spreadsheet, then you can manipulate that data the way you need to in order to show growth and categorize and track students according to that goal throughout the year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you my process. And basically this episode is more about Google Sheets. So I'm going to show you a few things that I do in Sheets that help me sort my data out, and it's just specific for my workflow. So this is all for me as far as how I manipulate my data. You don't have to do this. It's just a great little um, validation or formatting that helps me identify the students a lot quicker than scrolling through the sheet. So I wanted to share that with you. So let me share my screen. All right, so here is my form. So the students had to fill out this computer science form, and they had to answer all these questions. Okay, let me go into the edit mode. So they had to answer all these questions here, and they had to rate themselves according to a scale. So they read the question, and then they basically rated themselves accordingly. So 1 meaning basic, 5 meaning they were an expert. And they go through all of the questions, and then I get a good understanding of their knowledge for the subject area. So once this is all done, I then go into my response sheet. So I can click on responses here, and I can go into my response sheet here. But for my example, I am going to go into my Google Sheet, which is in my drive. So right down here, I have my form responses sheet. And what I'm going to do is hide the column because I have information about students in there. So I hid the column, and all I did was I go up to the top, and I click on that down arrow, that drop down, and I click hide column. Okay, so automatically all of my information gets stored in a form response sheet that's associated with my Google form. Then what I do here is at the bottom, you could see I have 2 tabs or 2 sheets. So all I did was, I don't want to manipulate the original data. So what I do is I just click on that down arrow, and I can duplicate the sheet. So when I duplicate it, I end up getting my data that now that I can manipulate and move my columns and format my information. So down here, I can rename my sheet, which I did at CS SGO data. I can delete the sheet, I can duplicate it, I can protect it so that no one can change the information in there. So if I go into here and I hit protect sheet, set permissions, and now you can see that the sheet is locked so that no one else can manipulate that data. I can also change the color. I can change the color of the tab. So if I wanted to, I can color code my tabs according to a specific category. So those are little, they're handy little tips down here for sheets. So what I want to do next is you can see here I have all the data and all of the questions are up at the top and they're bold, and the headings are formatted bold, and the fill is blue. So what I want to do here is I want to show you how to use the paint tool so that I can format these three columns the same way as the rest of them. So what I do is I go to a column or a cell that I already have the formatting done, and I click on the paint roller, which is the paint format tool. I click on that and it copies the format for that cell. And then I click on the cell that I want to format the same way. And it takes the same format and it applies it to the cell that I just clicked on. So if I show you again, so now I want to take this format, which is the blue background and the bold text, and I want to click on the paint tool and go to the cell that I want to format, and it applies that format. So it's a great little feature that'll help you keep your formatting consistent with the font style, um, the whether the font size, whatever font size it is, the color of the font, it keeps it all organized. And you can see it did that correctly. So now what I want to do next is I need to categorize all of my students into a category, low, medium, and high, based on their responses. So I'm going to take my data, okay? So I have to add the columns up first. And in order for me to do that, let me delete these. Forgot to do that before the show. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add the responses. So I'm going to add all of these cells together because that is one entry. So in order for me to do that, I need to use a formula. So anytime you start a formula, you need to use the equal sign. And there is a formula called sum. And what Google Sheets does is it brings up, it tries to figure out what you're typing in with machine learning. So you can click on any one of these formulas from the drop down and it will provide you the format for the formula. So I want to add this range. So all I'm doing is highlighting, and then I put the parenthesis there and I hit enter, and you can see that it added up my row. So now what I want to do is I want to see this little anchor here, this square at the corner. Now I want to just click and drag that formula down, and it should automatically add up all of the rows. And you can see that it did. So this little anchor feature here is a great tool because all you do is you click on that square, hold down your mouse, and you just drag, and it will copy that formula and adjust the cell range accordingly. So the next thing that I want to do is data validation. So data validation is actually a nice little feature to only allow the user to enter a certain value or range into the cell. So what I'm going to do next is show you how to do data validation. Right, so let me highlight my range. And now data validation is in the data menu, and I go down to data validation. Now, you always want to make sure you check your cell range. Since I already highlighted the range, it's already done. But if it's not, then you would just click on this icon here to select your range. Now, what I want to do next is I want to set a criteria. So I can list different items. I can list numbers, text, date. What I usually do is I use a list of items. And this is going to allow me to only have the user have certain options to select from. So I'm just going to put L, E, M, and H, and they all have to be separated by commas. And I want to show these values in a drop-down list, so I have that checked off. If anything else is invalid, it will show a warning message, and I'm just going to hit save. So now here you can see that I have a drop-down, and it only allows me to select the 3 values that I have in my drop-down. So there's no room for error here. Okay, so your user can, and this would be something done by the teacher, obviously, because at this point you're manipulating the data. The students wouldn't see this at all. You would see all of this information at the end. Now, if I typed in something incorrect, okay, you could see it gives me a little red triangle here and it tells me it's invalid. So it flags it. So, and then I need to go back in and fix that value right away. Okay, so that's data validation. So let me put these in. So data validation is very handy when you're trying, if you're sharing a spreadsheet with multiple people and you only want them to insert certain information into cells. I would recommend using data validation. So the next part that I use is conditional formatting. So conditional formatting will apply a specific format to a cell according to a criteria. So again, I'm going to take my CS category, LMH, and I'm going to use this range here. Okay, and I'm going to go to the format menu and I go down to conditional formatting. And now what I want to do is I want to apply a specific format to cells in this range. So if I didn't highlight the range prior to coming into this feature, then I would just click on this icon here to select my data range. So at this point here, I want to color code my cell red if the value in the cell is an L. So I'm going to select text contains. I'm going to put the L and I want to put a red background in there. And I hit done. And you can see that it applied the rule, okay, to those rows. So now what I'm going to do is highlight my range again. I'm going to go to Format, Conditional Formatting. I'm going to add a new rule. And always make sure that your range is correct. And I'm going to hit Text Contains M. And I want to make it green because that means that they passed. And I hit done. And you can see that it formatted those cells accordingly. So all the cells that have an L in it have a red background. All the cells that have an M in it have a green background. There's no H value in here, so I didn't bother applying a conditional formatting rule to that. But if I did, it wouldn't highlight anything. But I can show you that. So let's highlight my range. See, this is why I like to do the range before I go into the formatting, conditional formatting. So if I go to format, conditional formatting, and now I want to delete this this rule. So all I do is hover over it and I hit the trash can. And I'm going to add a new rule. Here's my range. If my cell text contains an H, I want to change my background to blue. That's actually too dark. Let's do light blue. Okay. And there's no H, but I can type in an H and you can see that it'll work. Okay. So I use conditional formatting all the time because this helps me identify quickly how many students or what students are in what category. Now, another thing that I do is I don't want to sit here and type all of these or count all of this data because that's too much for me. In my sample right here, I only have 17 students here. But for my real SGO, I have about 75 students, and I have to do 2 SGOs. So counting how many students are in each category is too much work for me. So what I like to do is down here, I'm going to total the number of students that are in each category by using a formula called count if. So anytime I start a formula, I always use the equal sign and I type in count if. All right, and what I'm going to do is put in my range. And if you need help with these formulas, you can always go into the help section and type it in, and it'll give you the proper I can't think of the right word the proper formatting for that command or for that formula. So for the count if statement, I have to put the range in and then a comma, and then I have to put the string in. So whenever I use a string data, I always have to put it in quotes. So I'm going to put quote, double quote, capital L, and the quote, and then paren. And I hit enter. And you can see here that it calculated it. So it counted 13 students have a value of L in this column. And you can see here the actual formula is in the status bar here, or the bar, the formula bar up top here. So what I can do next is I can anchor this formula. So do you see the little square here in the corner? I can click on it and drag it down. And what I would recommend that you do is just double check the formula to make sure that it is correct. Because sometimes when you drag or anchor and drag the formula down, the range gets modified. So you always want to make sure that you check your formulas when you use that feature. And you can see right here, the range is not correct. This should start at P2 to P17, not P3 to P18. And since I'm counting the medium students or the M students, it didn't change the L to an M. So you do have to modify the formulas when you're using the anchor. So I'm just going to do that. And you can see here my value is definitely different. And let me change the value there for the H students. Okay, so it gave me a total for all of the students that are in the categories. So this is actually very a very quick way and efficient way to correctly count the number of students in each category. I'm trying to think here. I'm looking at my checklist here, what I need to go over. So that's what I wanted to show you. That's it. So that is basically how I manipulate my data for my SGO and get the numbers and get the information that I need to type into the proper state form for my SGO. One more thing that I wanted to share with you was this week Google came out with a new feature for Google Sheets. Um, you can record actions in Google Sheets for macros. Now, I didn't get a chance to play around with this yet, but this definitely seems like a really cool feature for Google Sheets. Um, so if you wanted to write your own macro and record it, you can do all that in Google Sheets now. So you can check out this. Let me hide that. You can check out the blog, the Google for Education blog, or the Google blog, and I will put this link in the show notes so that you can refer to it. And you can actually read about it and try to experiment with it too. When I went to the Top Contributor Summit this summer, or excuse me, in November, um, they actually demoed the macro recording feature there, and it was very impressive. So if you are one that uses a lot of formulas or macros and sheets, that would be something that you would be interested into looking at, because it may end up helping your workflow. So I really hope that you found these tips and tricks helpful in Google Sheets. I just wanted to share what I do in Google Sheets with you so that people would feel a little bit more comfortable using it. I also want to, oops, I should have did this before. I also want to show you my website. So if you go to my website, you can go to the search bar and just type the Sweet Talk and click on the link for my website. If you want to be a guest on my show, you can just go to the guest tab and you can fill out this form here, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to watch any of the previous episodes, I have all of the episodes in a table here with the YouTube link and the show notes, so you can see past episodes. You can also check out the schedule of what's coming up. Okay, so I have a calendar here. And if you would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, okay, you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel here by bit.ly/the Sweet Talk channel. And here's my website. And if you need to email me, you can always email me at sweettalkshow@gmail.com. And that's it for my show today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. All right, enjoy your day and have a nice weekend. Until next time. Bye.